Hello. How's it going? Okay, let's get some music going. Right, hey, cool, lovely to see you guys. We're just getting started for this morning. Our session's starting in a moment. We've got about 3 minutes. Please make yourselves comfy. Feel free to jump on the thread. Say hello if you're here. This is a really fun workshop today. We're looking at a workshop that I've run quite a lot with all sorts of groups of all sorts of ages. So it's a really good for lots of different people. But yeah, come on in, come on in. You'll be totally all right. This is what we're looking at today. It's going to take 2 minutes, I think, for everyone to get on board, and then we'll get started. But yeah, it should be a fun one today. Cool. Hello. Hey, hey. People popping in. Hello. Nice to see you. We're going to start our next session in just a moment. Fantastic. Oh, Mr. Wolfie, good to see you back. Coming for a second round. Cool. This session that we're about to start in a moment is for Key Stage 3 upwards. And that's how I'm going to run these from now on. So this is for anyone from secondary school age or above. A lot of the activities we do are great for any age. So don't feel like you have to be at school still. You can take part. It's absolutely great to have a range of people. But if you are studying Key Stage 3 or Key Stage 4, the skills we look at will be really, really useful for you guys as well. So yeah, kind of jump on in. We'll start in just 1 minute's time. Oh, okay, good question. Mr. Wolfie, the Key Stage 1 and 2 session, I believe it's being saved and it's about to appear on the site. I think it takes a little while for YouTube to process the video and put it up, but it will be up, I think, probably in the next hour. So if you've got it typed up somewhere, you can find the video then and paste it on. That's absolutely fine. But well done for today. Hello, everyone, popping on. Yeah, the Key Stage 1 and 2 session was pretty mad today. It was fun. There was lots of detective investigation work. Cool. We'll start in just a moment. Hello, nice to see you. No worries, Mr. Wolfie. See you later on. I look forward to reading your story. Cool. So we've got people popping on. Okay, cool. Oh, this is great. We've got a bunch of people. Hello, nice to see you. Hello, Gypsy. How are you doing? Fantastic. We've got people popping back on. Okay. How are we feeling today? I think we're about ready to get started. So let's get going. Okay. Fantastic. Hello. Oh, wow. I'm really, really pleased to see you guys today. I hope you're having a good time. We've got people. Hey, Gypsy. How are you doing? Nice to see you. Cool. Hello. Nice to see you guys. Oh, that's fantastic. We got a few people here. And Sally. Hello, Sally. Lovely to see you. Hello. How's it going? Lovely to see you too. All right, cool. Well, today we are going to be writing poems. We're going to have a go at writing our own poems. Now, often when I work with people in schools or at universities, and I go into a room and I say, we're going to write a poem today, I think people get a bit nervous because that feels like quite a big thing to do. I'm going to show you how we think about writing poetry that we're going to perform for other people. Poems for the page, but how to read poems out to other people that they're going to find interesting, and they're going to be powerful. Now, this is my job, right? I write poems and I perform them all the time, and I'm always thinking about how I can write things that will connect with an audience, particularly on YouTube. A lot of my work is on YouTube, and I try and write work that people want to share. Now, I've got a few things that I work through when I'm thinking of a poem, and I think if we do these together today, I think you'll be surprised what you can come up with. So all you're going to need is a pen and a piece of paper, and you're very welcome to take part. If you're watching this after the live recording, so you're watching this as a video, feel free to skip through times at any point. If you want to comment, you can comment, give me information as we're going. I can see the thread as we're going down it. Now, here's what I think, first of all. I think if you're going to write something as a poem for other people to hear, I think you should write about something that is important to you. I think it's a really good place to start. Now, before we go any further with any of this, I want to say, if we're going to be writing poems today, and I'm going to talk to you about how I think it can be effective, how you can write them well, this is not the only way to do things. I want to make that really clear. There are so many different ways to write poetry. And what I love about poetry, particularly here in the UK, is that we have such a variety of tones and styles and different voices. This is one way you can approach poetry. And I think if you write poetry and you do this, you can write some pretty good stuff. And I think it can be quite exciting, but it is not the only way to go. And I think you could break a lot of these rules and come up with some really cool stuff. Okay, but let's try going through this process. So first of all, we should write about stuff that we care about. I think that's really important. I think if you want other people to care about what you've written, if you want your audience to care when you read it out, it will help if you care about it yourself. Okay, I think when I watch YouTube videos and I see people talking about things on YouTube or anything like that, I don't tend to see people saying, oh, I kind of like this or I don't like this. They're normally very passionate and they really care about what they're talking about. And I think that's because they realize that people are more likely to be moved by and more likely to share videos and ideas where people are talking passionately about things they care about. Okay, so I would like you to draw this table on your piece of paper. So if you've got a piece of paper and a pen, this is all you need to do at this point, is just write a table with 3 columns. And I think these 3 columns really help you come up with your own idea for what you want to write your poem about. So these 3 things, let's see if I can angle this effectively, like that. All right. So in the 3 columns, I would put at the top of the first one, what's important? And then in the middle one, I would put memories. And in the final one, I would put frustrations. Now, I think these are really good headings to go at the top of your grid. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to get that down. Once you've done it, if you can type done into the comment thread, if anyone does that, I can start to see that we're kind of ready to move forward. But yeah, these are the 3 columns. And I think these are the things we're going to think about today when you come up with your own ideas. So let's see what we've got. Okay, what's important? Memories and frustrations. Okay, so we'll just get those up. Fantastic. Oh, Callum, nice to see you, mate. Callum, you've been producing some fantastic stuff for me so far. I've really enjoyed what you've been. Just finished. Right, now, a lot of today's session is going to be very personal to you. I do not mind if people don't want to share what they come out with. You don't have to share anything you've produced today. If you want to share what you come up with, I would love to read it. But I'm going to assume that we're going to work and you're going to keep these things to yourself. You can type these ideas as you're writing them if you'd like. You can write them by hand. I don't mind. It's up to you. But these are the 3 areas that I often think about when I'm thinking about what I want to write about. What's important? I often think, what do I care about at this point in time? What's important to me? So for me, if I was to think of things to fill up this table, I would think, first of all, what's important to me? And I might try and think of 4 things that are important at the moment. So I might write, my wife, Lucy, I love her very much. She's the most important thing in my in my world, I would put Lucy in there for what's important. I'd also put my mum and my sister, and I'd also put my dog Boo. I'd put all their names in here as well. Those things are important to me. Other things that are important, there are some things that are quite abstract, you know, like honesty, kindness, compassion. I think those things are very important to me. I was so pleased when we found out that the free school meals voucher scheme is being extended over the summer. That's very important to me. I could definitely put that down. I feel very passionate about that. I also feel very passionate. This is what's important. This is quite bad, but I really like my Nintendo Switch. I play on my Nintendo Switch a lot. And I really enjoy that. And I might put my Nintendo Switch down, or I might put down that I really enjoy playing board games. Right? I've got, anyone who knows me well knows that I've got over 100 board games. I've got loads of them downstairs, and I've got my own room for playing board games with my friends. So those things are really important to me. All right. Now I put all those things down in a list. I might also think of things that frustrate me and that annoy me. Things that annoy me. Oh, amazing, Adam! I've just seen you like board games too. That's wicked. Things that frustrate and annoy me. For example, I don't like bullying. I think that really annoys me and upsets me if people bully other people. And I think that can happen in schools, and it's really bad when it happens in schools. And I think it can happen for adults as well. And I think we don't talk enough about how it happens to adults too. But I think bullying is really bad. And that's a frustrating thing that I don't like. I don't like war. I think war is really bad. I think the idea of people suffering is really bad. And I might put that down in frustrations. Other things that I really don't like. I don't like tuna. I think tuna is like, oh, it's really smelly and disgusting. I don't like it. I also really don't like being stuck behind people who are walking slowly if I'm trying to walk quickly, like slow walkers. I could put that down in frustrations. All right. Now, some of these things are big things and some of these things are small things. It doesn't really matter at this point what you're going for. They can be foods, they can be hobbies, they can be things that other people do sometimes that you don't like. Like I'm pretty sure I snore quite loudly. My wife would put for her frustrations, she put my snoring, I think, would probably one of her things. Okay. So you can have any of those things. And then in the middle, we have memories. And for me, I would write down memories that are particularly powerful that I remember. And I have a lot of poems for performance that are based upon a memory. I have one about drinking my dad's mouthwash when I was younger and being really scared because I spilt it when I wasn't supposed to drink it. And I've got like an 8-minute long poem about that. I've got a poem about being at primary school and liking a girl at primary school and wanting to ask her out, but she thought I looked really weird with my big hair back then, and I have that as a memory. I have a memory about getting a tattoo when I was younger. I wrote a poem about that, and I kind of wrote about that as well. And so I write this list of memories. Now, for the memories, any memories are fine. They can be powerful, they can be meaningful, they can be things that you think of. Oftentimes when you maybe felt scared, or maybe when you were confused. Like a good memory sometimes is something where you found something difficult, or maybe there was something you found quite challenging. Now, if we're going to look at memories, I just want to say before anything else, you do not have to just dig up like difficult and traumatic things. Some memories might be too painful. You might not want to write about. And before we go any further, I just want to make really clear, you must not ever feel you have to write about something you don't feel comfortable writing about. My father passed away last summer, actually, and I would love to write a poem about him and about memories of him, but I just don't feel ready to do that yet. And I know that I'm not ready to do that. And so I will at some point, maybe, but at the moment, I would rather not try and write about that, okay? And I want you to make sure, as writers, you really look after yourselves in that respect, okay? You don't have to just go for the most painful memories you can think of. Think about what you feel comfortable writing about and what you'd like to explore. A good memory for this, I had someone write the other day, was they got lost in a shopping center though when they were younger, and they were already scared, but it's okay now because they're fine, right? And so that was a kind of funny, interesting story. All right, cool. So we've got all these possible ideas. I would like you to write down, let's go for 12 things on this table. All right, I want 12 things in total. It can be, you could have 4 things in each column. That's cool. You could have just 6 things that are important and 6 frustrations, and you might decide you can't think of any memories you want to write about. That's totally fine. But see if you can think of 12 things that you can put on this table in total. Just 12 things across the whole thing. Maybe you've just got 12 things that frustrate you and you don't want to focus on anything else. That's totally fine. All right, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. See if you can come up with at least 12 things. And if you get to 12, by all means, go further. Tell me more. All right. Get as much as you can down in the time. All right. Off you go. See how many things you can get on your list. And what I like about this activity is it's very personal. Okay. Everything you produce today, I'm not going to know about. I can give you these prompts, but the more you can mine yourself for information and ideas, the more exciting it's going to be, because you're going to have things that are important to you or that you dislike and memories that are completely original and are personal to you. That means your poems are going to be more original and more exciting for me to read. All right, let's see what we can come up with. Okay, remember they can be big, they can be small. If you're stuck, food is fine. I think you can put food items down. I still think maybe there's like things like qualities that I think are really important. Maybe there's something that annoys you. Maybe there's something that something at home that's annoying you at the moment. Maybe there's something big. Maybe lockdown. Where would that fit into this? Maybe you're thinking about your friends or family, or maybe maybe there's something that you just really want, you can't have at the moment. I think that would come into what's important there. Okay, doing pretty well. So if you once you got to 12, if you can just okay, we can give some examples. Lovely. Now the examples will start to make this session come to life now. So feel free, if anyone has an example, it can be one word, one thing they want to share in the thread. It could be something that's important, a memory or a frustration. I would say, like, let's start with. I'll go through some of the what's important ideas first of all. We'll start kind of sharing. But let's have a little look. So we started to get ideas. Feel free to keep writing if you want to keep writing. I'm going to talk through these as we go, though. I'm very aware we're going to be working at different paces. Another bonus thing to say is it does not matter who's the fastest. That's not important. It's about the quality of the ideas. So if you're working and you've still only got a couple of ideas, that's cool. Don't worry about it. That's still great. Okay, so things that we've got. Things that are important. Okay, Lucy, lovely. We've got a nice one. Family, absolutely. What's important to you? Family. I think family is a really, really good thing to write about. We'll talk about that in just a moment, because I think a lot of poets write about family. I think sometimes when you're performing at a poetry event or you're in a theatre, talking about your family with your first poem can be a really good way to get the audience to connect with you, because we all care about family, I think, on the whole, in the world. And so if you're talking about your family, that makes you seem quite approachable and quite nice and interesting, but also you're telling us something personal about you that we can connect with. What have we got over here? Load of stuff. Oh, we've got some memories. Okay, London, poverty, amazing buildings and scenery, impressive productions, how busy it was. Okay, fantastic. So we can have like a powerful memory of London and what we've kind of got from London as an environment. I think that's fantastic. We've got here family, friends, memories. That's interesting. I think memories is really, that's a big one. We could dig into that a lot. Football, absolutely. Music, love, and care. Now, I just want to talk about football for a second, because as a poet, you'd be surprised if you can write a really cool piece about football and you can share it online. You can connect with a huge number of people. People you can share it online in some way. You would be surprised how well it can go. I got asked a while ago by Kew Gardens to make a poem about mushrooms, right? And I thought, okay, like mushrooms and fungus. And I thought, oh, okay, cool. I write this poem, we filmed it and we put it online, and it got quite a lot of views. It got like, I don't know, about like 14,000 views or something, just from people over the course of a week, because it turns out a lot of people really like mushrooms and fungus around the world. And because we have the internet now, people can find things that they care about. So if you've got something you care about, like football or music or or something like that that you think a lot of other people might also care about, if you can write in a way that's effective about that and share it online, you can find quite a large audience. That's fantastic. So, all right, cool. We've got all these ideas. If there's any more, feel free to bring them in and put them into the chat. But all these ideas are great. I'm hoping that by now we've got 12 things. Fantastic, Sally. What nice suggestions. Environment and wildlife are things that we find important. Fantastic. We could write things about that. Sometimes I think, what is the point of a poem? Like, what do we want to achieve with a poem? Maybe we don't want to achieve anything. Maybe that's fine. But I think sometimes if you write a poem and all that poem did was persuade a few people to care a little bit more for the environment or for wildlife, that's a pretty good reason to write a poem. I think that's a really good reason to write something. We've got cool, mum, absolutely. We've got memories. First time meeting my girlfriend, lovely. Going to football matches with my dad in the 90s, learning to cook with mum the night before my best friend went to uni. Childhood walks in the park with Nan and Grandad. Fantastic, cool. And John done at the end. Thank you very much. All right, so we've all got these ideas that we've got. Now, I think that a really good poem for performance, for performance, I think a poem on underneath the surface. I want us to think a little bit about an iceberg. And this is a check that I apply to my ideas before I start writing quite a lot of the time. And we know that with an iceberg, there's much more ice underneath the surface than it is above it, don't we? So this is a nice technical drawing. Cool. So here we go. Now I think the iceberg, this is the ice above the surface, and this is the huge amount of ice that's underneath the surface. And there's much more here, isn't there? Now, I often think of an audience as being a bit like a boat. This is my very scientific drawing of a boat. And the boat is heading towards the iceberg. And what we want with our poem or our iceberg, we want to hit the audience and for it to have an impact on the audience, the biggest impact we can. And I think if we want to have a big impact, we need to have the writing, but we need to have a lot more underneath the surface. Okay, so if this is the audience, this is the poem. I think this is what you can see in the poem. And let's say we each wrote a poem that was 12 lines long, right? And that's what we can see, the writing of the poem. Above the surface, we can just see 12 lines of poetry. And maybe all of you wrote 12 lines and it would all be exactly the same number of lines. And if I wasn't even to read it, just look at it from a distance, I go, that's a poem, that's a poem, that's a poem, that's a poem. That's cool. What I don't know yet until I get to the poem is how much research and depth of meaning there is in that poem. That's what's going to have an impact on me as an audience. That's what's going to make me go, oh, wow, that's really giving me something to think about. Okay. So I think we can all come up with something that looks the same above the surface, but it's this stuff that's the really powerful stuff and is really, really important. And the way I tend to think about this is I think if you've got a topic or an idea that you know really well, that you have spent a lot of your life thinking about, coming into contact with, that's made a big impact on you, on who you are, that's very, very central to who you are and important to who you are, I think you're naturally going to have a lot more of this depth underneath the iceberg. For example, family. A lot of people have mentioned family, right, in their ideas. This is great. So if we took the idea of family, I think family has always got a deep iceberg. There's always a lot under the surface because you've known your family for a long time. You've thought about them for a long time. Sometimes they've been really funny. Sometimes they've been really frustrating, but they have always played a huge role within your life. And so anything you write about them is going to have all this depth of research and meaning that wasn't even something that you had planned for, right? It wasn't even something you thought about, but you can't help it. I've got some friends who have never met their fathers, right? Who are poets, and they have powerful, incredibly moving poems about their fathers. Now, they have never been able to do this research on who their father is. They don't know who their father is, but they've thought about what they're writing about is how they feel about not having their dad around or not knowing who their father is. And that's incredibly powerful because they've thought about it for a long time and it's very central to who they are and it's meant a lot to them. And that means that as soon as they start writing, they've got all of this ice under the surface that they can draw on, all of this powerful stuff that means that the writing is going to be so much better. I think at the same time, if you were to write about It doesn't have to be serious. I mean, I could write about Lucy, and I think I've got a deep research because I think about her a lot. I've known her for a long time. She's very important to me, so I've got a lot of depth there. I think I could write about Boo, my dog, because I care about her a lot. She's very deep. My relationship is very deep and complex and important. I could also write about board games. I really can, because I play board games a lot. I think about them a lot. It doesn't have to mean, this does not mean like that it's serious. It just means that it's really got a depth of meaning to you. Like you care about it, you think about it a lot. If you're watching this right now and you play Fortnite, right, every single day, this is what you love, you've got a deep enough iceberg down here to write about Fortnite because you think about it a lot. When you're working, it's the kind of thing you like to think about, the thing that makes you happy, thing that is important in making you who you are, because it's something really central to you. All right. So we need to think about these things. I worked with someone the other day and I said, what have you got? What do you want to poem about? And he went, noodles. And I said, what, really? Noodles? And he went, yeah, I've got a deep iceberg on noodles. And I was like, you've researched, you spend a lot of your life thinking about noodles. You've got a complex relationship with noodles. There's a lot going on under the surface. And he said, yeah. And when he started writing the poem, he got about 4 lines in, but then he really struggled. And I helped him with it, and we got some stuff done, and then he read it out, and I think he read it to the audience, which is the rest of the class. And everyone kind of went, he kind of likes noodles. You know, that was it. And I think that iceberg underneath the surface, I think was more like that, right? I think it was kind of like that. So there wasn't that much depth, and it meant that he didn't have much he wanted to say. He found it really difficult to kind of put the writing down. This isn't just important for the impact on the audience. It's also important for like making you enthused about writing the poem, like having something you'll care about. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to apply an iceberg check to your ideas. All right. We're going to think about this iceberg, this depth of meaning, something you know really well. And I'd like to have a look at your ideas that you've written down so far. And we're going to do an editing process to them. So which ideas that you put on your table are the most important to you at the moment? What do you think you have a deep iceberg in? Which ideas are you an expert in? Which are those words, those things do you feel like you've thought about a lot throughout your life, you care about a lot? I tell you right now, if you've got family there, family's always a deep iceberg. It always is. Which ideas do you have a lot to say about? And we're going to choose one of these ideas, one of the things on your table, and that's going to be what you're going to write about today. So have a look at the ideas. I would put a circle around any of the ones that you think you have a deep iceberg on. Apply an iceberg check to it. I like, okay, cool, connecting with other people. I think that's a great one. I think that could be a very deep iceberg because we often think about how we connect with people all the time, right? As we communicate. I think that's something that's every single day you're thinking about a bit. Frustrations, people's lack of manners. Maybe that's something that has grated on you over time. Maybe you've got a deep iceberg on that. Now remember, deep iceberg does not mean it's super serious. It just means that you, at this point in time, really grinds your gears, or it really kind of feels that you've got a lot that you'd want to say on it. Absolutely, feeling helpless for others who need help, mental health-wise, mistreatment of animals. Absolutely, I've got a deep iceberg on that. I could definitely do that. Can I iceberg check about history? Or is it better to do in London? Well, it's up to you. Now, this is the thing. Today, this is the first big choice you've got to make in this workshop. Put circles around all the things you think are possible options, and then choose one that you want to write about. I feel, Adam, from what your comment, I feel like London, I would be really interested to see that. What I think is nice about London is straight away, it's kind of more of a concrete thing. So we can get smells, sounds, sights of London. I think that could be a really exciting thing to write about. So I would go for you, out of that choice, I would suggest London. If anyone's got any other questions, okay, brilliant. Family and pets, Lucy, fantastic. Family and pets, really, really nice. Sometimes if you're writing about a pet, it can be really nice to think about when you first got that pet. As you're writing about it, that's really cool. Or family. No worries, Adam. That's what I'm here for. And I'm really, really pleased that you're thinking about these ideas. I think they're really good. All right, cool. So we've got this time to choose one of these ideas. We're going to set that as a title at the moment. So choose your idea, put it as a heading. Do not worry if you decide during this workshop you want to change. That's totally fine. All right, you're doing your own thing. That's cool. But choose one that you think you've got a deep iceberg on. And if you're stuck, ask in the comments. I can give you feedback on what I think would be a nicer idea to write about. But yeah, we're kind of getting our ideas down. Now, as we're doing that, choosing our topic, if you've chosen your idea, please feel free to put it in the comments thread, because it would be really useful, I think, to all the other students that we've got watching this, to see what kind of things people are going to write about. Remember, it can be funny. It can be like, if farts are like, you just love farts, and you've got a deep iceberg on that, put them down if that's something you really care about. But the important thing is that if you've got a deep iceberg on it, I think there's more you can say. And I think it's more likely that when you share it, you can have an impact on the audience, and they'll remember the piece. All right, cool. All right, so we're going for, Gypsy, amazing, lovely. Going to write about horses. Your first rides with different horses. What a lovely idea. Now, what I love about this, okay, so frustrations with people around the music scene, nice. What I love about this, and why I run my workshop like this, is that you've got your own ideas, and they're also for us. What I love out of this, anything you write today, if you share it with me, I'll see if I can try and like funk it up a bit with some visuals, like put it on a nice slide, and maybe we'll try and share some of these cool pieces on the group, because what I love is that we create loads of different pieces that are original. Those of you who've been with me before, remember the number one thing for me in writing is originality. It's the highest grade response, saying something that's different and unique. What's cool is you are different and unique, and you're original. So anything you're writing like this about yourself is gonna be different and cool. Absolutely. Concerts, absolutely. Dancing, beautiful. Dancing, what a fantastic thing to write about. All right, cool. So we have applied an iceberg check. That's great. I think, next stage of this, I think there are 3 key things that I think can give you an absolutely fantastic piece. There's 3 points of this triangle, right? First thing, an iceberg check, which you have done. All right, let's tick that off. You've got that completely sorted. I can't even find my pen. All right, we'll just, we'll mentally tick that off. Done. Boom. You've done the iceberg check. You know the thing you're writing about is something you care about. That's the first part of the puzzle. The second part, all right, is techniques. That's quite a big one, all right? You can just talk about this randomly, but you've got to keep an audience interested. The way you do this as you're reading your poem out is you need to have techniques in there, poetic techniques and language techniques, maybe persuasive techniques, up to you, but different techniques and ideas. What kind of techniques do you think could be useful in a poem? What language techniques do you think you might need? I'm going to give you a minute to see if you can write down in the thread any techniques. We'll just gather a bunch here and I'll go through them so we can kind of think about these and why these techniques are going to be useful. We've got the iceberg check. What are the techniques you might want to use to make sure that how you care about this thing is going to relay to an audience and keep them hooked? 1 minute. List of techniques. What do you think? Okay, we're starting to get some ideas up. Cool, cool, cool. Okay. Okay, so we've got some techniques coming up. Come on, this is it. We've got the iceberg check. We're 1/3 of the way there to having our piece ready. What's the next stage? The techniques. All right. All right, I've got a bunch here. Let's see what we've got. Well done, guys. All right, so some techniques. Now, feel free to make notes of these, but you don't have to. You can just think about them, but we definitely want to think about some of these things. I'm going to jump straight in with Adam, was the first up on the thread, said metaphor. Absolutely. Metaphor, when we say something is something else. We did a whole workshop here on metaphors and all the different types of metaphors. It was probably the most intensive workshop we've had over the lockdown. But yeah, metaphors, really, really essential, really important. It's when we say, the sun is a burning meatball. That would be a metaphor. If you're ever stuck for a metaphor, you can always grab a dictionary, find 2 random pages and see what you create. I did it the other day and I had the moon is and I found 2 words and it just went lonely merchant. And I was like, oh, that's quite cool, right? The moon is a lonely merchant. It's not really a lonely merchant, but that metaphor really kind of spiced up the writing. It was really cool. Remember, you can just do that. If you've got a dictionary or a thesaurus, just open it in 2 random pages and see what you come up with. You might be surprised. You might have something kind of cool. Anaphora. Ho, big word. Now, that's a form of repetition. If you haven't encountered anaphora before, it's pretty cool. It's when we have repetition at the start of our lines. So we've got like, I believe that we should all care. I believe that we are all different. I believe, and we're kind of keeping that repetition, but it's when we have it at the beginning of a line. Really nice. So yes, someone else is already absolutely loose. We've got repetition. Fantastic. We've got, I love this suggestion, an amazing beginning to hook the listener in. Absolutely. I love the word that you use, the word listener as well. Remember, we're writing for performance now. Now, writing for performance is a little bit different from writing for the page. When we're writing poems for the page, like I've got some poems I love for the page that are quite complex and quite difficult for me to understand, and I have to keep going back to the poem to get the most out of it. And actually, I don't have to understand everything that's being said in the poem to really enjoy it. And I love reading poetry like that. But when you see poetry performed live, you definitely need, I think, if the audience can't understand what you're saying, you only get one chance to perform it to them, right? So you've kind of got to get your message across more clearly when you're performing than you do on the page. They can't keep going back to it and reading it again and again and again. I mean, you could on YouTube or something, but normally you stand up in front of a room full of people and you have to connect with them. So you have to hook the listener in. Absolutely. We've got wordplay, figures of speech, and jokes. Yeah, some humor. Absolutely. I often try and put a little bit of humor into my writing when I'm kind of like writing a piece. You definitely want to be able to do that. We've got repetition. Absolutely. We've got similes. We've got repetition. We've got whoa, loads of stuff. Okay, we've got lots and lots of things. We could go into a lot of these later date, Callum. But you know what? We have only got so much time. But very, very cool. We've got repetition again. We've got humor, metaphors. Very good. We've got very good. We've got similes and personification, verbs, adjectives. Do you know what? Lovely first line. London is a nutshell, just waiting to be cracked. What a cool first line that is. I really like it. It's really, really clear. What I like about this, if this was your first line, like we said, a first line that's going to like have an impact on an audience. I like the fact you said London is your first word. I know what the poem is about straight away. You know, it's really clear. I think sometimes with a performance poem, if we make it overly complicated at the beginning, it's a little bit like seeing a performer kind of walk into the doorway before they get into the room. You just need to tell me something honest and clear to start with. And I think London is a nutshell, just waiting to be cracked. I know what the poem's about. It's about London. It's got a really cool image straight away. I kind of want you to see you kind of like move that on. Oh, hello. Someone's going for power of 3. Absolutely. I think we covered that maybe as well in another session earlier on. So that's fantastic. And a powerful closer and punchline. Awesome, guys. Loads of stuff. All right, so we've got all these techniques. I use rhyme a lot. You don't have to use rhyme. You really don't. But what you do have to do is you have to think about all these techniques, what you're going to use. All right. And the reason we want to use techniques, I think, is they keep our audience on the journey all the way through. They keep them locked in because it's very satisfying to hear these techniques applied to what we're saying. All right. So we've got our iceberg check. We've got techniques. And then I think this one is... It's kind of optional, but I think it really helps. I think having a story or a message, something that you want to convey. Now, if it's a story, it's quite nice because as soon as we start telling a story, people start to lock into what's happening and they follow what you're saying all the way through from beginning to end. And we like resolution. We like an ending to a story. So if you can talk about your thing and you can put it in a story somehow, that can be really, really effective. If you don't have a story, it's totally fine. But I think there might be a message that you really want to kind of get across. And you might want to think what the message is. Sometimes I'm away, but I love her very much and I'm very lucky to have her. And the message is that her love makes me feel really warm and cozy wherever I am. And that was my message. And it's called Your Love is Like a Blanket That Always Keeps Me Warm. You can check it out on the thread. But yeah, that's an example of a piece. But a story is really important as well. If you want to write a poem about people, slow walkers, being really annoying, perhaps there's a way you can put that in a story. Perhaps there's a way you could start one day and you're out and there's loads of room, and you're talking about that, and then the slow walkers come and they get in the way, and everything gets really slow and annoying. And as soon as you've got a story, as a listener, I'm really interested in hearing the end of that story as well. It can be really useful to follow it through. If you're writing about someone being bullied or bullying being a problem, maybe you can place the bullying in a story somehow, because if you can get a story and a beginning, middle, and end, we want to hear how that story progresses. It's very powerful, the impact of a story within a performance piece. It can really kind of move things along. I was working with someone the other day, and she said her Iceberg Check, she said like it was her mum. She said, I want to write about my mum. She's really embarrassing, and she pretends that she's younger than she is. That's what she wanted to write about. I think it was a girl in about year 9. And I said, okay, cool. And she had lots of ideas, and it was all very loose. And I said, can you give me an example? Can you tell me a story about a time that your mum was annoying? And she said, oh yeah, last weekend, my mum, she went out shopping and she brought back T-shirts, these bright yellow T-shirts that said yo on the front. And they looked really embarrassing because she's too old to be wearing a T-shirt that says yo on it. And I was so embarrassed. And I said, oh, okay, what happened? What happened in the story? What happened next? And she said, oh, well, she tried to put the T-shirts on. And I was so embarrassed by her putting the T-shirts on. But then she couldn't get the T-shirt on because she's not as thin as she used to be. And I said, oh, right, what happened then? And she said, oh, she felt really embarrassed and she put the T-shirts away. And I felt a bit bad for her then. And I thought, oh, okay, that's really interesting. Isn't that interesting? Like suddenly we've got a really interesting story. Mum's embarrassing. She's got these T-shirts that she's brought home, and oh, mum, and it's a story straight away. And we kind of want to know where it goes. They don't fit, and she's not as young as she'd like to be. And then the daughter feels sad that the mum isn't as young as she wants to be. And there's a change there, isn't there? There's a journey. And I thought she came up with a really beautiful, powerful piece, I think, as a result of that. And it's because she spent a bit of time thinking about a story. If there was a story she could put into this. I think if you're writing about London, perhaps you've got a story from London, and maybe there's a beginning, middle, and end within that. Now, you do not need that part, but I do think if you can get a story, you'll be surprised how much an audience will lock into it. All right, so here we go. We've got our ideas. Now you have your idea. This writing might be too small. We need to start writing. All right. As a writer, you need to take me on a journey with you. Remember, when we're performing live, I think of it's a bit like being on a bus journey. You've got to get everyone on the bus with you, and we've got to go somewhere together, right? You've got to make sure we understand. So you have to take me on a journey with you where you can tell your story or share your message without leaving me behind. How will you make the journey engaging for me as an audience? What techniques will you use to make sure I'm interested and I'm on board for the journey? How will you keep me on the journey? Some people mention humor. That's a really, really good idea. How will you make me want to come on the journey with you at the beginning? What are you going to start with to make me want to come on this journey with you in the first place? Now, I'm going to ask you to try to write the first lines of a piece. 8 lines maximum. I'm going to give you like 4 minutes. Not that long. And the reason I'm not going to give you that long is we don't have to worry about it being perfect. We're not going to stress too much. We're just going to have a go at writing the first 8 lines, see what it comes out with. Like, we don't have to rhyme. You can if you like to. I do not mind. It's up to you what you want to put down. Remember, a line can be 1 word. It can be 3 words. It can be 10 words. It can be whatever you like. The important thing is see what you can come up with. How are you going to get me on the bus, on the journey of your piece? What's the story? What's going to happen? At the end of 4 minutes, if you get to 8 lines, I'd say cool your jets a bit there. Have a look at it. Check over, see what you've got. Anyone's welcome to share what they've got. But at the end of the 4 minutes, we'll have a chat about how that was and what we've come up with. So here's the challenge. First 8 lines of a piece. Imagine you're going to be standing up in front of people. You're going to read your piece out, what you're going to say. Remember, it doesn't have to be complex. It just has to be clear at the beginning. What are you going to say to your audience about your thing? What are you going to try and tell us about? All right, 4 minutes. If you're stuck, start with one of these words. These personal pronouns are great. I think actually this word I is a lovely way to start. Or you could always start with the thing you're talking about. You could start with the word bullying. Someone I worked with the other day said bullying. It's awful, isn't it? That's a really, really nice start to the poem. I thought that was pretty cool. All right, 4 minutes. Time starts now. Do you remember 8 lines maximum? If you get 2 lines, wicked. If you get 3 lines, great. That is the most I want you to write. That is the absolute most. I phone my mum every day. Cool, fantastic. Do you know what? That's a good first line. That's a good first line for a poem. I think that's a great first line for a poem. It's really clear. And as we're writing these ideas down, we're getting started. Things to think about that might be useful. Sounds can be really interesting. Sounds, colors. Think about the different senses. Maybe there's sense of smells. Maybe there's things going on to do with your thing. Maybe someone could have some speech. That can always be interesting. Similes, metaphors, all these techniques. What are you going to put in? Fantastic, fantastic. Really good. Okay, cool. Let's see how we go. Fantastic. We've got a nice one. Lucy, I like how we're starting. Jack is my dog. He's a crazy dog. I've never seen Jack. I want to know what Jack looks like. Can you describe Jack? And what can I see? We're going to talk about this thing. Maybe we want to think about like it being like a camera. Like we're kind of zooming in on it. What are the first thing you would notice about this dog? What would you see? What would you hear? Can you come up with what is this dog like? Maybe the dog is like something in particular. See what you can come up with. Remember, it's no right or wrongs. Let's see what we get. But yeah, that's a lovely, lovely start. Fantastic. Now, so this is our real chance to get our audience on the bus with us. So they're getting them on the journey. We can make sure they can understand what we're talking about. Looking good. Having a little look at what we've done, thinking about techniques. Are we using techniques? Are we using some of that kind of, are we using some repetition? Are we putting rhyme in? Are we using similes or metaphors? Are we kind of thinking about, I mean, power of 3 is... Adams. What about yours in just a moment? We still got time, guys. Still got time to see what we come up with. You've got 1 more minute left. 1 more minute left. And remember, 8 is the maximum. If you go beyond 8, it's fine. Like, oh, that's cool. But I really think like 8 is all we need to think about. Having a look at what we've written, seeing if there's any edits we can make, any ways we can. Oh, Lizzie, you really leveled up your writing there. Fantastic. He's black like a pack of panthers. Nice. Oh, some cool ideas, All right, we've got about 30 seconds left. 30 seconds left. Okay. All right, cool. Brilliant. So you're doing really, really well. See what you can get down. Remember, don't think about it too much. Don't stress it. We can always edit and tweak. A first draft is often about just getting the words down on the paper. We can go from there. Okay, cool. All right. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Like, if you're still feverishly writing, carry on. You can carry on going with it. That's totally fine. But otherwise, if you feel you've hit a good point, now finish the line that you're on. If anyone would like to share like their first line, I'd be really interested to read some first lines. Talk about the first lines that are really effective. Congratulations, you're heading. We're already like heading towards the end of this session. You're doing really well. So right, let's have a look. So I really like. Let's go with this. I just think this is great. Jack is my dog. He is a crazy dog. Cool. We got a bit of repetition there with the dog being mentioned twice. Really reinforces, reminds us that we're talking about a dog today. And I like the fact you've got Jack. I know what your poem's about. I know what your audience on the, and then you go, here's Black of Panthers. And that's really satisfying for me as an audience to hear a lovely simile like that. So that's fantastic. And you're bringing me further on the journey with you. And it's becoming a bit more exciting, I think, because we've got a technique in there, which is great. Well done. Okay, so we've got Adam. London is a nutshell, just waiting to be cracked. The streets bellow like a courageous lion. Why do they argue? Why do they chatter? And I like the questions. I think questions sometimes in a performance piece are a really good way of pulling the audience in a bit, just there on the journey with you. Yeah. Why do they argue? Why do they chatter? Do they think poverty matters? I move through the crowded streets, cluttered up like bees in a hive. Fantastic. One thing you could consider doing, Adam, is you don't always have to have like similes for these. You could say the crowded streets, cluttered up, bees in a hive. You don't even have to say like if you'd like to. One thing I think we often do is we can sometimes use simile when actually a metaphor might be even more powerful. So just a question with yourself as you're writing, could any of these just become actual metaphors? Because I think a metaphor is sometimes a really bold way of putting your stamp on a piece of writing. But that is fantastic, Adam. I love it. Next, she asks whether I've been to work, even though, oh, okay, so this is about phoning your mum, isn't it? The first line was, I phone my mum every day. If my dad answers, he says, I'll get your mum. I know we've got some speech. She asks whether I've been to work, even though I've told her 1,000 times, no, I haven't. 2 minutes later, she asked me again, have you been to work? Okay, so yeah, I can really, I feel like we need to go, no, I haven't, Mum. No, I haven't. We keep repeating that back. Lovely. I really like that. I think it's a really, really clear story. I think we could get even more about how, I'd like to know how you feel as this is going on. Perhaps there's things that are with your voice or with your mind or her voice. Maybe there's things that we can hear. What does her voice sound like? What does it do? What's your reaction when she comes on the phone? Is it happy? Is it sad? I don't know. I kind of feel like we can dig even deeper into this exchange, but that's fantastic. Silence. Found the stage was empty. Like it. I like the short silence for impact. It's kind of cool. He has a green collar like a green snake. Fantastic. We're still writing about our dog. Oh, nice. I don't mind the repetitive conversation, but I see my grandma in my mind. Cool. That's really leveled up the writing there. I think that's really cool. These are great. Found the stage left, so I went up to tell that I have a story. Silence. They told me, yeah, this is great. Okay, well done, Dwight. This is excellent. Blue Army. Giddily fills the air as around this grand old terrace, my eyes wide peer and stare. Like we've got a bit of rhyme in there. It's opening day of the season. I'm donning a new shirt. This fortress in Fratton comes alive before players commence their work. Nice. I like it. You might find, Callum, my flow or my rhythm is a bit clunky. I'm sure yours is smoother as you're reading it out because you know how you're providing the intonation. But obviously, like keeping an eye on that. My voice starts to anticipate how loud it goes. Yes, lovely, Jack, fantastic. My voice starts to anticipate how loud it can go at the concert. Nice. Okay, and then we've got I love to dance more than anything. It's my chance to spread. I love it. Ophelia, I don't think you can fault that first line. I love to dance more than anything. If you stood up on a stage in front of a load of people, I know what the poem's about. I know what you're saying. It's really clear. And then it's my chance to spread my wings. A metaphor straight off the back of that. Very powerful. Very, very moving. All right, cool. So here's the challenge. I want you now. We've started our piece. We're going to try and expand it. I want you to write another 8 lines maximum. I know. We're going to go even further. All right. Can you raise the stakes? I think by this point now, we need to kind of like shift gears. We need to make it more powerful. If you haven't started telling this in a story, maybe you can start a story here. Like once I remember one time, give me an example now, kind of really drill into a memory. How are you going to keep us on this journey? This is a tricky thing because we're trying to have a piece that's going on a journey. How are things going to change? Is anything going to change at this point? Question marks can be really useful around about now. If we think about questions, again, using sounds, sights, using the different senses. But how are you going to level writing this point? How are you going to add some stakes? Maybe there's a problem, or maybe maybe something gets taken away that was there before, or maybe you change your mind about something, or maybe something goes wrong. What do you think? But how are you going to raise the stakes? Remember, it doesn't have to be completely true. Some of these elements can change if it's going to help the shape of the piece. All right, I'm going to give you another 4 minutes, 8 lines maximum. What will you say next? Off we go. It takes 3 wheels to make a vehicle called tricycle. Every triangle has 3 corners. Remember, you don't have to keep things the same all the way through. If you've got long lines, you can have short lines now. But what are you going to have happen next? How is this going to really progress? How are you going to keep me on the journey? Well done, by the way. You are right in towards the final stretch of this session now. Well done. What's going to happen next? And what techniques are you using? 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. Now the multiples of 3 come out 3 times in each set of these. Remember, 2 lines is all we need. If you get that, that's totally cool. 3, 4, great. 8, amazing. But that is the most, absolute most. 21, 24, 27, and it comes out even on 30. 3 times 10 is 30. 3 times 9 is 27. 3 times 8 is 24. 3 times 7 is 21. 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 4 is 12. And 3 times 3 is 9. And 3 times 2 is 6. And 3 times 1 is 3, of course. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 30. 3 times 2 is 30. 3 times 9 is 27. 3 times 8. What are you going to happen? What could happen? 3 times 6 is 8. What would happen if there wasn't this thing you loved? Maybe that's when you run away right now. Maybe you're getting to a point where we go, if your dog wasn't there, or if you weren't able to dance, or there wasn't football anymore, what would that mean? What would that be like? I really think we want to be thinking about changing gears at points within a poem. That really helps people feel excited and want to stay on your journey as you're going through the poem. So yeah, how will you adjust it and change it? All right. What do you think? Jack. Stunning. Love it. Love it. Love it. Really, really nice, Jack. The merch still beckons me like the devil with tea, I think is a fantastic simile we've got there. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's 30 seconds left, and then we'll see what we've got. Now, hopefully by this point we've started to progress this piece somehow. Remember, it's a first draft. It doesn't matter about getting anything perfect or right. We can keep tweaking, keep editing. Okay, let's see. All right, we're going to keep moving. So what we're going to do is we're going to tie that up there. Let's see then. Oh, leveling up. Repetitive chat about nothing because I don't want to let the chat may end. And now I love listening to why do I need to pick up my shopping from Tesco? What day do I need the shop to pick up my shopping from Tesco? Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely. That's fantastic. Well done. Lucy. But can you how happy you felt? What were you as happy as? What did it feel like? What did your heart feel like? What did your smile do? How could you add to that? What could you do to make that seem even brighter and more powerful and more poetic? But I think it's fantastic. Lucy, you're absolutely smashing it today. I really, really love what you're writing. These are great. All right, Gypsy, let's have a look. haven't seen you so far. It's nerve-wracking but exciting. The first time walking towards him, when I reach him, it's me to see if I have a treat. My heart is racing as I put my foot in the stirrup, in the saddle. I feel him start to move. Oh, fantastic! This is really, really cool and exciting. I love how else are around you as well. Include. That's fantastic. Passing my men and women side by side. I remember we're all considered human, not judged for who we are. Now we're bothered about the price of cars, how to help ourselves and no one else. The doors are shut, hope is lost. I wish we could go back to how it was before, when morale was bursting through us all. Yeah, great, Adam. Cool. I love the flow, man. And you've got some really is going. What I love about this is we've got such a variety of ideas and work, which is fantastic. So by now, I'm hoping we've got to the point where we're heading towards the end of the poem. Some of you may feel that you've finished, actually. That's quite possible. But I want us to think today about trying to come up with an ending to our pieces. By now, hopefully you've been able to share this thing, and the thing you care about, whether it's something that you love or something that's frustrating or a powerful memory, and relay it. But I think towards the end, I think it's worth thinking about another 8 lines maximum. This is the final section today. When we finish this, we are done. But why is it important to share this? Why are you telling us about it? Now, you could say really obviously if you want to at the end. And I think this is important still. I do that with my Beth Builder poem, actually. I go, that's why Beth Builder is important. When I look back and see pictures of the boy who hadn't met her yet. Yeah, I kind of do that. I go, I think that's why that's important. But you don't have to say it out loud. But I think it's important to what the message is, what you've got from this, why you care about it, all right? And how do you want this piece to finish? Do you want a proper mic drop end? That can feel pretty cool, the piece, and you kind of like step off the stage. But so you might want to start with end something big. You might want to end up with something small. You can just kind of move the camera away from the thing you're talking about and just focus on something in the background to suggest that you're like relaxed. Maybe you kind of like chill out and you kind of don't focus fully on the thing you're talking about. It's up to you. But, oh, wow, oh, fantastic. I really like this. Sally, stirring a pot of bolognese, the house calling number. This hit me like a lump of thunder. Was it a lump of thunder? A lump of lumber. Lovely. I love the simile in there, Sally, with what you're doing there, is the rhymes keep me locked on your story. And there is a story. So I want resolution to that as a listener. The rhymes are really satisfying. So that seems fantastic. It's all right, cool. We're gonna bring it to an end. I've got to show it to an end, I'm afraid. So another 8 lines maximum. We're going to try and end these pieces, right? We're going to try and bring it to an end. Within this, we should have some idea of why it's important to share this. It can be hinted at, but I think if we're performing live, I think it's helpful. And how do you big ending or with something and small? It's up to you, but you need to think about how you want it to come to an end. All right, 8 lines maximum, 4 minutes. At the end of that, we are done on all of the writing. You can do this. You can do this. Let's go. Already looking so good. Remember, if there's things you haven't used so far, this is a good time to use them. A good simile, a good metaphor can be really powerful. If you've started with rhymes, you might want to be carrying on those rhymes, see where it goes. You might want to think about what the message is by now, what you're kind of leaving the audience with before you get off the stage. So what is it you want to say at the end? Is there something you want them to think about? What's something they want to take away? Yes, Lucy, I can see what you're writing. It's fantastic. Really, really cool. Absolutely. These are great. Excellent. I'm going to leave you to it. Work out your ending and what your answer is. Okay, so how are we doing? Down at the end, you might want it to cut off abruptly. Maybe you want to end with a question. Maybe you want to end with, do you feel the same by the end of this poem as you do at the beginning? Have you been on a journey? Has anything changed? Oh, Chris is getting really powerful. I feel, Chris, you had some lines that I think were great as an ending, actually. You could already switch these around and go with that as an ending. It's up to you. But like, oh my goodness, that's a very powerful ending that you already kind of come up with. I'll bring it up on the screen in case anyone wants to see. I wonder in the end, will she know who I am? Is a very, very powerful line. 1 minute left. Okay. And thinking at the end, is there anything different at the end than there was at the beginning? Perhaps if you used colours at the beginning, maybe the colours are different now. Perhaps the sounds are different. Perhaps there's something that has changed, or perhaps everything is exactly the same as it was at the beginning. The journey could have gone round in different directions and ended up back at the beginning. It's totally fine. It's up to you to make a decision what you think works. Okay, let's see what we got. Okay. Now, you've still got about 45 seconds, so if you're still writing, that's totally fine. But I thought what I would do is I'd start talking to everyone as people are kind of wrapping up. I'm going to talk about this piece. I think it's very powerful. Sad to know she is now just like Grandma. I wonder in the end if she will know who I am. I think that's a really powerful line and idea to finish on. That you might decide after you perform this in front of an audience, or you've read it out to an audience, that that might be too much at the end and you want to change it. And I often think when I write poems for performance, they're not finished really until I've performed them in front of a few audiences, and I tweak and I adjust and I change things based upon what I feel works. Often when I'm performing things live now, some of the poems I've performed hundreds of times, and I've got to the point with them now where I know what kind of response I'll get from certain lines and how it goes. But I definitely see my writing as being changed by the audiences over time. They help me kind of edit. But that's a great line. It's really powerful and really moving. Right, we overlooked what's happened for many years ago. Central London, really nice. This one, I can show you the beginning, but the end I'm going to read out. So when I went on that stage, I was frozen with fright. And then the curtain rose, and on came the lights. That's when I knew I needed to do this. And when we were done, my heart filled with bliss. Yeah, love it. Love it. I really, really like it. I think that's really, really lovely. As the heart stops and the concert comes to an end, floods of tears fill my body as I thought it wouldn't end. It was fun while it lasted, but until then, only my footprints remain. I like until then, only my footprints remain. That feels a particularly original combination of words. I would say be careful with floods of tears. That feels a little bit like a dying metaphor. It's kind of a metaphor that we use quite a lot. Maybe we can kind of like adjust that slightly, come up with like a more unusual combination of words. I bet my heart is always pounding when with him. I like that a lot. My heart is always pounding when with him is really nice. That suggests that you're really excited, doesn't it? We can show it rather than just telling people. That's really, really, really lovely. Okay. I love my dog. I love company. He is the best. Well done. Okay, so I kick him into trot, but when I get back, depends on which horse it is. Duncan, a delight, does everything I want. Bugsy, the grumpiest of them all, takes a bit more effort, but he's amazing. Chippy, I love how you go through all the different horses. If I was performing it, I would do different voices for the different horses probably, so we could feel the different characters. But yeah, I think that's really lovely. That's a really nice idea. And we've got, great. Okay, I like being unemployed. It's like life, but with added stress. My parents say find a decent job, but I think it's just bad press. It's like being a fish in the water when I should have been fishing. I can't really see what people are missing. It's great. It's joyful. I'm having a great time. Supercalifragilistic. It's absolutely sublime. Even though my life is quite scrappy, I'm contractually obliged to feel happy. Oh, I love that piece. I can really feel the flow and the rhythm and the rhymes all the way through. Is Lucy Baker your wife? No, she's not my wife. My wife is called Lucy Wilshire Grist. Yeah, okay, that's great. Lovely. Look, all right, look, here's what I'd like you to do. On my artist page, send through the work. I can have a chat with you personally about what you're coming up with, but have a look at what you've got now. See if you could read it to someone. Find someone in your house or somebody else that you could read it out to aloud, and see how it sounds. Because when we're writing for performance, that's really important. And we have to see how it connects with an audience. All right? Read the poem to someone else and see what they think. I know it's tricky to get to an open mic at the moment, but if you want any feedback on it at all as well, feel free. You can record the audio, send it to me on my Facebook artist page, or send it to me in text, and we'll have a chat about it, and we'll try and work out what to do with it. But you have a poem. You have a poem that you've been working on. We can keep editing it, we keep tweaking it, but now it needs to go in front of an audience. That is it. That's really the basics of what we need to think about. I think what we've learned today, mining for like a deep iceberg, finding something that we care about, that we can really talk about. We've talked about how once we've kind of found a deep iceberg, the techniques we want to be at, making sure we're using, sometimes using a story and making sure we've got a message within the piece as it goes through. And I think if you've got those three things, remember, if you've got the iceberg and you've got the techniques are really exciting and cool, and you've got a story, that's when you hit the kind of idea that I think people will really share and people will be really moved by, and you'll do really, really well. All right, cool. We're at the end of the session. You guys have been amazing. You've written such great stuff. Please feel free to send it through to me on Facebook and I can have a chat with you about it, or send it through, type it into YouTube if you'd like to. Type the whole piece into YouTube. That's totally fab as well, and I'll try and reply to it then. But otherwise, try and read it to someone out loud. See what they think. All right, see how it goes, and let me know how that goes. All right, cool. Next week we're gonna have a little look at I think we're gonna do some like roller coaster design work next week, so it should be kind of cool. All right, see you guys later on. Have a fantastic Wednesday.